Hey, this is Rob Swanson with the Real Estate Mogul Show. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Hey, it's Rob Swanson back with another episode of the Real Estate Mogul Show. We're back in the studio. I had a week of traveling last week amongst doing the 100 Offer Challenge and a whole bunch of other things, but we are back. We're back in the studio. I've got the guys here in the studio with me. We're going to dive into this. We've got Mike sitting here as well as Joe pushing the buttons.
Yep, absolutely.
Welcome
Excited.
Back, guys.
It's good to have you back in the office.
Yeah. It feels good to be back. That was an interesting week. Always constantly trying to figure out fast enough Wi-Fi connection that wasn't cutting out, that got the video and the audio through, and it was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
But it was all right.
We worked it out.
Yeah, we worked it out. And Mike, you have no idea about any of this.
I don't. Yeah, I was out all week.
Yeah. And I should say, because this is the second time now that Mike being out all week has come up on this show in the last couple of weeks. And however, we do something here at FreedomSoft that's kind of fun, that this wasn't sick time off. This wasn't paid vacation time off.
Nope.
This talk a little bit about what we do. It's kind of fun.
It's a lot of fun. So, yeah, this was volunteer work. So we have a program here at FreedomSoft where anybody on staff can take a week off, and it's not vacation time, fully paid time to go volunteer with an organization of your choice. And so to sort of dive into that, my wife and I volunteered at church camp at our local church. Our 3 kids attended, but there were 260 or 270 kids from the local area that came out. And so it was Monday to Friday. And this isn't, I say church camp and people think normal church camp stuff. This is kind of church camp and steroids, where the electives are man versus wild, military and survival, rockets. So they're shooting stuff in the air. Man versus wild. Rob, I told you this story earlier. This just cracked me up. Our church has this big fountain out on the main road, and it's 12 or 15 feet tall. And
it's big.
This water drops into a big pool at the bottom. And the man versus wild group went down to a local fish hatchery and bought 15 rainbow trout, and they released them into the fountain. And then these kids, there's 2 groups. So there's a younger age bracket and an older one. But
I just want to throw out the PETA alert.
They're 5 to 10 years old, and so they turned 15 trout loose in the fountain, which is right on a pretty main road. And we had kids out there in bathing suits running around trying to catch fish with spears, grab them with their hands, whatever they were doing. So
Spears that they made.
Totally. Yeah. Spears that they made. It was a riot to watch, because I took our group and we climbed up on top of the fountain, and we were overlooking watching this. And I just remember watching all the cars going by and just trying to think what they were thinking. What are all these kids doing in the fountain?
So you got 15 trout turned loose in the fountain.
Right.
And then you got 280 kids turned loose on the trout.
No. About 7 or 8 at a time. Yeah.
But no trout were harmed in the making of this story.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Right?
Yeah. They didn't learn how to cook them and eat them. Yeah, let's go with that.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Yeah. For some reason, that feels different. Like when you go up into the mountains and you throw your fly rod into a mountain stream and you take them out, or you go up into a alpine lake and you pull them out and you take them back and you throw them in the fry pan. It feels different than when you're like spearing them in a pond next to the road.
But if you're 8 years old, equally as entertaining.
100%. Yeah. I think as a 51-year-old, that's equally entertaining.
Totally. Yeah. It was fun to watch.
Well, this whole thing though came from it might have started last year when Nick
did, if I remember right.
Yeah. So Nick here on the team, who is my son, volunteered for a week-long camp up in the mountains where they bring in foster kids. And And so foster kids come into this camp, foster boys and foster girls. And he was a counselor last year for a week, where you get assigned usually 2 counselors to 1 kid, and there's usually a floater counselor. So Nick was associated with 1 kid all week, and they just hung out. And wow, what a challenging thing, and what a unique experience. And so I tell you this whole story. I mean, some of these kids never like they've never had a birthday party. Nobody's ever sang them happy birthday. They've never had a birthday cake. They've never got a birthday present. They've never got to do something where somebody said good job. And and I didn't volunteer at this. I don't know this firsthand, but I do know this from secondhand. And when Nick got back from this week-long experience and started talking about it, I was like, everybody should have the opportunity to experience impacting someone else's life in that way. And so after that, which was last late summer, fall, we sat down as a team and I just said, you know what, we're going to give people the opportunity. If they want to go volunteer and impact someone else's life through some type of a nonprofit organization, we're going to make that available. And it's not going to cost them PTO time. It's not going to cost them sick time. They can literally say, hey, I'm going to be gone for a week, and I'm going to go volunteer and support XYZ organization. So it's been pretty cool to see the different things that people do. And the reason we've sort of done it is it was, everybody has their own sort of vision on what we should support and what nonprofits we should give to and volunteer our time with. And, as a team, it's sometimes fun to come together and agree on that consensus. But then as individuals, I asked the question, how can we as an organization make the impact organizationally, but let the individual person decide how they want that input to show up in the world? And so that's where that came from.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. So this was the first time, like Rob said, this went live last year. This is the first time I've done it, but I plan to every year. So this particular church camp our kids went to last year, my wife volunteered. And then I saw what an amazing time they had. And last year I showed up on Friday afternoon. They invite all the parents and caretakers back. Yep. Some kids are being dropped off by grandma and grandpa, aunts and uncles, whatever. And so I got a small glimpse of it. And I walked out of that Friday last year saying, I got to be a part of this. And then this program here got implemented. So let me share this really quick, Rob, because some of the people listening to this podcast have organizations or are a part of organizations. And I'm just telling you, got to bring this and at least consider it. What an amazing way to spend some time. What an amazing way to, get outside and go impact people in your community, wherever that is. But I was telling my wife and I were talking to, I don't remember who it was, but this was on day 1 or 2. I'll tell you a quick story. This was on day 1 or 2. And so we go to this church, so we know people there. And the lady said, oh, Mike, you're here too. That's great. Not too many dads can make it. That was her comment. And my wife chimes in and says, hey, Mike works at a company where they actually pay him to go, take a full week off and do this. And the lady was floored. And now this was in a semi-chaotic moment, but she, I could see her. My wife made the comment and she kind of thought about it. She's like, wow, that's really cool. And then there were 270 kids on site, right? So we all kind of scattered to where we needed to go. But it was, that was a new concept to her. And you could see that it registered real quick and thought, wow, what a cool thing for an organization to do. So,
yeah, that's
thank
awesome.
you for implementing it. It was great. We had a great time. I plan to keep doing it.
Well, here's what's cool about it. This is why we all do real estate. Real estate is the thing that can buy your life, that can give you the opportunity to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, where you want to do it, with whom you want to do it.
Right.
Real estate for the everyday person is the thing that can do that for people. Because all you got to do, so, a lot of times business owners have that freedom and that flexibility, right? They can do that when you build a business. And But for the everyday person, for the average person, for the person that has a job or has other things, real estate steps in the gap and creates an asset and income stream that pays the everyday person that anybody can take advantage of and build wealth and build cash flow. We see that every single day, not only around the office here, and people taking advantage of real estate investing, but with our user base and our members and people that plug in and are within and connected to us. And it's such a great thing to see.
I mean, the perfect example, you were traveling all last week to, get into a little bit about like, we overcame some challenges last week with the live event that we did because you were traveling, but you had the opportunity to do that and your family had an opportunity to be where they're at because you made the same action you took the same action as a lot of people took this last week in that 100 offer challenge 20 plus years ago, right? You said, all right, I'm going to change my life and go from being an engineer to doing this thing in real estate. And you made a plan. I remember you talking about having this moment where you feet on the floor in the morning and you knew exactly what you had to do. You had put it together. And it was pretty impressive to see, even despite you having to dip out for the week, that live event went great and people were, really taking action and changing their lives.
Yeah.
So,
it was fun.
Yeah, totally fun.
It was fun. I mean, for those of you that missed it, we did what we call the 100 offer challenge last week. It was a 5-day challenge, Monday through Friday, and the wrench in the plan was I was traveling, and so my wife and son were out in Nashville. I was back here. And so I decided that I wanted to go see them over the weekend. And then I was speaking at a high-end real estate event. A buddy of mine runs the Collective Genius down in Tampa. And so they were having one of their big sessions. And he invited me to come down and talk about the future of real estate investing and how AI and artificial intelligence is going to impact that.
And we're gonna get into that next week, but carry on.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that 100%
For
because there are, I think the way people see and do real estate investing today versus the tools they'll have right over the next 3 to 5 years is astounding. I think back to when I got into this business back in the late 90s, early 2000s, right? So Craigslist didn't exist, right? iPhones didn't exist. The internet sort of existed, right? But all of these things, Craigslist became the thing for a while, and now that's old school. People hear Craigslist and they're like, why would you use Craigslist for real estate investing? But that came and it was this flash in the pan for a series of years where it was this amazing technology and this tool that people could use. And we've had that along the way. And one of the things that, and we'll make this connection in future weeks, but we've had the sort of the iPhone moment, the internet moment of new technology and artificial intelligence over the last few months. And it's been pretty amazing. So to circle back on the story, I was flying down to Tampa. I left Rocky Mountain Metro Airport here in the Denver area, flew out to Nashville and was going to see Melita and Nick. And then I took off on Sunday, I guess it was Sunday morning sometime, and it was going to fly down to the St. Pete Airport in the Tampa area. And I think we've got queued up. As I was taking off out of the Lewisburg Airport just south of Nashville, it was close to where our friend's house is, my wife shot a little video of me taking off, and in traditional sort of pilot fashion. If people don't know this, when you take off and people are on the ground at the airport watching you, like waving goodbye, the way you wave back to them is you rock your wings. And so
right.
we've got a little bit of a wing rock, I think, queued up.
Yeah, it's
Joe,
ready to go.
So all right, let's just play this. So for those of you that are not watching,
There it went.
what we've got is a picture of an airplane just taking off, and then I'm about to turn up into the clouds and head southbound towards Tampa. Now, you might look at that and you might say, why are they talking about taking off, and why are they throwing a picture of an airplane? And I'm doing it because it sets the stage for the rest of the week. And you can see the sky here, and there was a little bit of clouds, but there's a nice combination of blue sky. This was the last easy flight I had. The rest of the week, so getting back from Tampa, going back to Nashville, and then back to Denver, this was a Sunday when I took off. The entire southwestern United States got socked in by thunderstorms, and there was a line of clouds that basically blocked my exit out of Florida. And the reason this is important is because every day I had to show up live and do the 100 offer challenge training. And that was my commitment to people. It was a free challenge. We had around 1,000 people registered going through this challenge, and people were relying on me to show up and do my thing every single day. Mm-hmm. And Mike, the guy who, if I couldn't have quote unquote made it, was not available because he was volunteering.
Right.
So I was catching trout in a man-made pond.
Exactly. So I couldn't have shot you a text and said, "Hey, I need
Right.
you to step in on this," because he was committed. He had made a commitment. I couldn't ask him to do that. So I had to figure out what was I going to do. And this is in business. People have to figure out how to overcome adversity or work around the challenges that it takes, right? I hear it all the time. People talk about, I'm too busy. I don't have enough time. It's the wrong time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough this. There's a million excuses on why they don't get something done and have the success in real estate that they believe they should have, that I know they can have, and that they will have if they push through the hurdles. And so I had to every day figure out how to navigate weather planning, flying, showing up for the live event, and coordinating internet access and all of this stuff in order to make this thing go off. And we did it because we know that that's what it takes to step up and make something happen.
And impact people's lives. I mean, if you slide to the end of that deck, you'll see the guy sent you a Facebook message. One of the participants in this 100 offer challenge sent a Facebook message, and he's taking action. Throw this up there. But this was something you broke down for him, and what Mike spoke about was rewiring your brain.
That's right.
And now he's put this up on the refrigerator and is making efforts every day to accomplish what he knows is accomplishable.
Yeah, and for those of you that are not watching the video, but you're listening to the audio portion of this show, what you see is a whiteboard in a Facebook Messenger message, and it says 1,000 opportunities, 100 offers, 1 deal, 10K per week. 100 offers per week equals 40K per month. Create habit. That's what we talked about, and that's what we gave people sort of the idea to go do. We created a mantra. Right, Joe, you and I talked about this. We created a mantra that says every day, the mantra is make offers, make money. Make offers, make money. So when your feet hit the floor and you wake up in the morning, the first thing you should say to yourself, make offers, make money. And so that's going to rewire your brain in the habit to say, okay, how am I going to make offers today? And through the 100 offer challenge, we laid out a systematic approach to make sure that you have the ability to make 100 offers every single week, even if you didn't get 100 leads all last year.
Yep.
That's what we did.
Yeah, it's killer.
It was super fun to focus in, and it was challenging to overcome the challenges of the week of travel.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I kept thinking to myself, it just motivates me to bring the heat all that much more and try to be a motivation for the people that are participating live in the challenge and doing the work. Because the same thing that I'm feeling right now to show up and deliver this training live each day is what most people feel every day to show up and put in the work to make offers.
Yeah.
And that was key mentally for me.
Yeah. Show some of the pictures of the flight too. With you got to take a little flight with Melita and Nick, and I mean this is the result of those action steps. Right. Of
That's
doing the work and
right.
having a plan, and you got to enjoy this beautiful flight with family while you executed in your job.
Yeah, I showed up over the weekend before I flew down to Tampa and spoke at the event, and then ended up trying to get through all the storms to get home. On that Sunday, we had some friends that lived up in Kentucky, about 3 or so hours away driving, and we jumped in the airplane, and in 48 minutes, we were landing, and they were picking us up at the airport. So,
nice.
It's super fun.
Hey, is it safe to take selfies while flying?
It's totally safe.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it's totally safe. Okay. In aviation, airspeed is life, and altitude is insurance. And so we had plenty of altitude. So we had a lot of insurance margin there. Right. And so if I took the selfie and I screwed something up, I had a lot of altitude to fix it.
What altitude are you at here?
We were, 10,000? It was only a 48-minute flight. We were probably, 9,500 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, so we weren't up too high.
Hit the next picture too, because it's a beautiful shot out that was where my weekend was. But yeah, look at that.
Yeah, right here.
Look at that.
That's what I was avoiding pretty much the rest of the week, was big thunderstorm buildups the whole way.
And as beautiful as that looks, it's dangerous.
Well, yeah, you don't want to go into that. It's building fast, and The challenging part was when you had those all around you, and there was little windows that you were trying to get through. That's where.
So were you alternating course mid-flight?
That's
what I figured.
Yeah. So in fact, here I'll let me go pop something up. Let me go over to one of these other. So over here, so if you pop this up on the screen, Joe.
Yep, you're good.
You can see coming out of the St. Pete airport, and guys, I don't know, we're talking a lot of airplane stuff, and somebody's listening to this right now thinking, man, you guys should talk about real estate.
This is the result of real estate.
Yeah. So
stop tripping. We'll get there.
Hey, my show.
Hey, Rob.
I want to talk about airplanes.
From offer to payday should be a straight line, but it's not. You got to navigate some weather in a real estate
100%.
deal.
I like this guy.
I know. He's always got, he always figures out how to bring it back to a lesson.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
But that's every transaction.
Exactly. So you can see here, I took off out of the St. Pete airport. I went northbound. I hit Crystal River because I wanted to follow the coastline instead of cutting out over the Gulf of Mexico. And I went the coastline, and then I went straight, and I was heading straight towards Nashville. And I was hoping that I was going to find a hole to get through in those clouds. But you can see the little airport up to the upper right-hand side. The magenta line is where I wanted to go. The green line with the airport or the airplane and the ring around it, that's where I ended up going. I ended up flying because that storm was moving at a massive clip to the east. I ended up flying all the way to almost Savannah, Georgia, around Atlanta, and then back on course to Nashville. It made a short flight a long flight.
Yeah, and this is, so clearly you were checking weather ahead of that. So how much extra fuel do you add on knowing that you may have to take a diversion here.
Yeah, I left St. Pete with full fuel.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just me and my bags in the plane.
Right.
So
yeah, that was the advantage, right? You didn't have 3 other people.
Yeah, I had full fuel
and a ton of gear.
And so yeah, I just knew that if I stayed out in front of the storm, I could land somewhere. And if I stayed out far enough in front of it, I could land, fuel up. I can turn a fuel stop in about 20 minutes if I'm trying to go fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun. So let's jump into something. As we reflect on the last week and the 100 offer challenge. And I know, Mike, you weren't here at this, but we've done trainings like this. We've done things like this for so long.
Yep.
And, you know, what we had was people, whether they were brand new or whether they were experienced real estate investors who were trying to figure out how to put an offer system in place for their team to create the systems and develop the workflows and create the habits that ultimately produce results. So one of the things we taught in the 100 Offer Challenge is that it's not just about leads. It's about creating opportunities. And those opportunities turn into leads, and those leads turn into deals, right? But you can go all the way back to opportunity to offer. Most people go opportunity to lead, lead to offer, offer to deal. What we taught people to do was go straight from opportunity to offer to deal. We skipped the expensive part in the middle of this. And we just did it using the tools inside of FreedomSoft. And we built a list. We filtered that list down. We used the property snapshot. We estimated the value. And one of the things that I spent a lot of time on, Mike, and I think you'll appreciate this, is I spent a lot of time teaching people how to estimate repairs without being a contractor, without being somebody that's rehabbed hundreds of houses, without being somebody with a ton of experience. We spent the time showing people how, if you just run the 6th grade math, it's the same as running the complicated math within a plus or minus percentage of margin.
Right. It's as close as it needs to be.
It's as close as it needs to be. And that's what people don't understand. Right? They think that I've got to know, is this an $18,433 rehab? Is this a $28,292 rehab?
Right.
Your offer between those two, depending on the price point of the house,
it's both.
It doesn't change much.
Could be both, correct.
It could be both. And you could take that up, right? You could take a $38,000 rehab versus a $62,000 rehab. At the end of the day, at the beginning stages of the process, it doesn't matter. One of the things, Mike, and you might want to talk a little bit about this, but the rule of threes. Right? Talk about the rule of threes.
Can I interrupt just real quick? Why doesn't it matter? Because you're in the game.
It doesn't matter because you're in the game, and it doesn't matter mathematically.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, the amount of money that the differential in that offer, in the construction cost makes to your ultimate offer. Yeah. If you're offering correct, either cash at a discount or terms with payments over time, the differential is not that great.
Right.
And from a wholesaler's perspective, when you get a property under contract or identify a deal or an opportunity, you don't know at that point in time who your end buyer is going to be.
That's right.
You may, if you're an experienced investor and you've sold some deals, you may have a pretty good idea of, I think so-and-so will probably be interested in this, but you don't know. So as an example, I've wholesaled deals to landlord buyers who do as little as possible to get a property rent ready.
Safe and functional.
Safe, right.
Safe, clean, and functional. Those are my 3 rules.
Yeah. I usually call it functional and clean, but same thing, right? Right. And then that same property, I've wholesaled real estate to one fund in particular. If any of the systems in the house are more than 5 years old, they replace them because their model is, we're going to acquire real estate, we're going to over fix it, and we're going to eliminate as much ongoing repair expense for the next decade as possible. So if they have a 6-year-old water heater that's perfectly functional, swapping it. The rehab estimate for those two buyers, buyer A does as little as possible, functional and clean buyer.
Yep.
Buyer B is going to replace anything that's more than 5 years old. Now, roof, 10 to 15, but any of the systems in the house, if it's over 5 years old, they're replacing it. Those two rehab estimates are two very different numbers.
That's right.
So back to your point and back to Joe's question, why doesn't it matter? Because you don't know who your end buyer is going to be. You just have to be in the ballpark.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But here's why I think people get stuck on it. Number one, it's potentially a lack of understanding on how buyers operate. You can send the same property to 5 different buyers and say, go walk the property and give me a rehab estimate. You will get 5 different numbers.
All the time.
Every time.
Yep.
All the time and every time.
Yep.
So that's one reason, right? The other thing where I think people get stuck is, and the reason I was so excited about this challenge is because it helps people overcome fear of making offers. But if I'm afraid to make the offer, I may talk myself into thinking, if I don't have an exact rehab estimate, I could never make the offer. And it's just another way for my brain to trick me into analysis paralysis, thinking this has to be exact. I can't screw it up. And then they get stuck there, and then they don't make the offer, and they blow it off on, but I couldn't nail down the rehab estimate, so that one's okay, and then they feel okay about it.
Right.
And I'm telling you, it's your mind playing tricks on you.
Yeah.
The best part about that slide you just showed of the message where the guy in his refrigerator put, so at the top he had the how-tos if you can't see it, 1,000 prospects, 100 offers, blah blah blah.
Yep.
But the last 2 words on there that weren't numbers at all, that was the most important part of what he put on the refrigerator. Create habit.
Right.
When you create, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, when you create the habit of making offers, your habits will naturally lead you to income. That's right. The power in the challenge.
That's right.
And so those stories are super exciting because for people to know, who to send an offer to, that all matters, but that's not the biggest hurdle. The biggest storms they face are their own brain. That's what we were talking about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the other reason. So, Mike, you've bought, demolished, and then rebuilt new construction. So you bought little junkers.
Yep.
In neighborhoods that are turning.
Yep.
And built $1 million homes.
Yep.
When you get to that, when your exit strategy is, I'm going to buy it cheap, I'm going to demo it, and then I'm going to rebuild from brand new, like that construction estimate starts to matter more. But you went in, you bought it, you had an idea of what you were going to spend, then you started to do the design, and you had some preset ideas of what you were going to do.
Yep.
But you said, we're gonna do X refrigerator and X type of appliances, or we're gonna do X type of lighting system, or we're gonna do X type of countertops, right? And custom, or we're gonna do this custom cool stairway in this house. At the beginning, you didn't have all of the costs of those things figured out,
Correct.
But you had the rough idea of what it was going to be.
Right.
So when I go into a house, what I'm usually thinking is, if I went into this place and dropped a bomb in the living room and just blew the place up, do I have enough money to rebuild it? So I usually have margin in my repair estimate so that if I don't have to drop a bomb in the middle of the living room, I have extra profit, right? But if I do have to drop that bomb, now somebody's going to say, yeah, but if you always estimate that way, you're not going to get X, Y, and Z deals. You're going to overestimate, you're going to offer too low, and you're not going to get deals. Okay. That's a mindset. That's a mindset that is once again keeping you out of the game. Change the mindset, make the offers, and get in the game.
There are a million reasons that people come up with to justify why I shouldn't get in the game.
Yeah.
And the power in the challenge was throw that stuff out, right?
Yep.
And let's just jump in the game.
Totally.
There is no perfect offer price.
Totally.
Because there's 1,000 different buyers, and they all have different criteria.
Yep.
You just have to be in the ballpark, and the ballpark's big in a lot of cases.
Yeah. So there's different ways that people estimate repairs, right?
Yep.
Some guys pay for estimating software, like expensive estimating software, where they go in and they do a takeoff, right? And they know how many square feet of drywall, and they know how many linear feet of trim, and they know how many square feet of carpet, and they know how many gallons of paint, and they know how many light switches, and they know how many linear feet of wiring, and like they do the whole thing.
Yep.
And they know how many man hours of electrician at this rate and how many man hours of HVAC and painter and roofer, and like they know all of these things, right? So you can go all the way to the extreme of having this super complicated, complex repair estimator. You can come back all the way to a general rough guesstimate based on the size of the house, and somewhere in between. So what we find people do a lot of times, and especially the way we teach it, is we'll teach you, number one, the sort of bulk based on the square footage of the house. And let's say you're in a rental neighborhood, or if you're in a fix and flip neighborhood and you're under such and such a price point, estimate $25,000 in repairs, or estimate $45,000 in repairs, right? So there's basic rules of thumb that you can follow depending on the house, the price point, and the exit strategy.
Yep.
Then people utilize inside of FreedomSoft our repair cost estimator, which is a very simple repair cost estimator that says, here's the house as is today, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and some very scientific descriptions of the condition of the property. Right. From livable and clean to livable and needs work to a total beater. Right. Two, that's part A. Part B is, what's the house going to be when we're done with the repair?
Yep.
And that is then based on construction quality, so economy, average, or luxury. And so you could go, hey, I've got a 3-bedroom, 1-bath that's 1,100 square feet, no basement, an attached 1-car garage. You can fill that in on part B. Part B, you could say, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, so I want to add a bathroom, and I want to do average construction quality, and then you can make a local market adjustment.
Yep.
So literally with about, 10 or 11, maybe 12 inputs, you click Create Estimate.
Yep.
And the repair cost estimator in FreedomSoft estimates the repair cost of that house for a rental or a fix and flip.
Yep.
Gives you 2 ranges. All the way down to what I talked about a moment ago, the rule of 3s. Okay? And so it doesn't matter in most cases what you choose to get to your repair cost estimate. You almost always land up in the same basic place. Talk a little bit about the rule of 3s.
Yeah, you taught me this years ago. It was, no matter what you have to do to a house, you can estimate it in a multiple of 3. Mm-hmm. So small bathroom needs a light remodel, $3,000. Bigger bathroom needs a remodel, $6,000. Kitchen needs a light overhaul, $3,000. Kitchen needs a full overhaul, $6,000. Bigger kitchen needs a full overhaul, $9,000. And so it's just a matter of taking
water heater needs replaced, $1,500.
Yeah, right. So it's either $3,000.
Yep.
Up $3,000 times 2, 3, 4, whatever, or $3,000 divided by something.
Right.
And it gets you, at the end of the day, it gets you in the ballpark. The other thing that you can't know about your buyers, I was talking about this a few minutes ago. Some buyers have fantastic relationships with subcontractors, and they get work done at a half to a third of the cost, as if you jump online and find the fancy trucks driving around.
Yep.
So, a sheet of drywall costs what a sheet of drywall costs for the most part. But labor is vastly different. And a lot of times that comes down to a relationship. If you're bringing a ton of work to, say, a tile crew, they're not going to charge you the same amount as the one-off job.
That's right.
Because you're consistent. So back to this, this whole concept here is to just get in the ballpark. The rule of 3s, been talking about it forever.
Yep.
The rehab estimator in FreedomSoft. But people want to overcomplicate this process. And the way The way a lot of investors, specifically newer, think about it is they think, oh, well, I don't even know how many sheets of drywall this project costs. What does a sheet of drywall cost?
Right.
And then they're on the local big box store. What's a sheet of drywall? And they get stuck there.
Yep.
Like, there's no way I'm going to figure this out.
Right.
Right. And
what's fun, not to cut you off, but what's fun with that is when I take a new acquisitions guy, right, or a new house buying specialist, and they don't have that connection, they don't understand what does a sheet of drywall cost. And was it Joe, when you were first kind of getting into this business, was it a house on Rutledge? Was it Rutledge or
Rutland?
Rutland.
Yeah,
Rutland.
in Memphis.
Yeah, that little brick ranch, 900 square foot brick ranch that was basically gutted down to sticks and bricks inside, right? Just framing inside. And trying to figure out how to estimate the repairs, I looked at the picture inside the front door and I said, oh, it's going to be X. It took me 4 seconds to just give a number, right? And then you're like, how do you know that? And I said, well, here, go into FreedomSoft and go to that address in the lead record, pop up the repair cost estimator, punch in, what do we know about it? What do we know about it, today? What do we know about it after repairs? And click create estimate. And it kicked out a number. And it was like almost spot on. And then you're like, well, how does that math come into play? And so then we stepped back and we sat down and I said, okay, well, let's start to think about this, right? Let's say I have a crew that I'm paying $25 an hour and I've got a crew of 5. And what does it take to do sheetrock? What does it take to do, the drywall? What does it take to do? And I said, how many, what's the perimeter of the house? So we just went through this whole process, like this complicated process of math to say, how much materials do we have? How much is it going to take? How long is it going to take? Man hours for somebody to do it? What rate do we pay for that labor? And we went through the math and we came up with the same number. And then we went back and we said, let's look at the rule of threes. And my rule of threes is generally for your typical bread and butter, stick or brick, block down in Florida in the hurricanes areas, but your 900 to 1,250, 1,300 square foot, single story ranch, investor house, right? Your bread and butter kind of rental. I use the rule of threes, and everything, as Mike said, it's a multiple of $3,000. What's the roof going to be? 2 times 3, $6,000. What's the carpet going to be? $3,000. What are the windows going to be? $3,000. What's the painting going to be inside? $3,000. What's the painting going to be outside? $3,000. What's the kitchen going to be? 3 times 2, $6,000. What's the bathroom going to be? $3,000. What's the water heater going to be? $1,500. What's the furnace going to be? $1,500. 3,000 times 0.5. Everything is a multiple of $3,000. And if you start to get that in your head, you can look at a house, as long as you've got your checklist of things, you can figure that out every single time. And so, Mike, you said something a minute ago, which is just a pre-setup for people to hear this. When they go into a new market, oftentimes they say, well, what's the labor cost in this city? Or what's the labor cost in that city? Or how do I estimate repairs here versus there? And this is just a dangling carrot that I'm going to throw out there. We are going to run a virtual market challenge coming up, and we're going to teach people our process for identifying and then launching their business into a virtual market. There's nowhere for you to go. There's no pre-sign up. There's no anything here today. I want you to put that in the back of your noodle. Keep plugging into the show here, because we're going to run that challenge for free and show you guys how we do it. Because I've invested in 20 some different states and 30 different cities across the country personally, not through students, but personally, and then through students all over. And we have a process. And the process works. And we're going to take people step by step through that process and show them how it works. And I think people are going to love it. Oh,
they're going to love it for sure. And here's what's powerful, especially for the 100 offer challenge folks. Create the new habit of making offers, right? Massive hurdle to overcome. Number 2, virtual market challenge, learn how to invest anywhere in the country.
Yep.
And now you might live in Boston where the average single family home price is 900 grand.
Yep.
Tough market to
Yep.
go find a distressed seller, right? Because real estate's worth more than gold. So now what? Do you just think, oh, I'm out of luck or I got to move? No. Now you go through 100 offer challenge and overcome that obstacle. And
Yep.
then you go through virtual market challenge and understand that literally the entire country is your playground.
Yep.
Unstoppable.
You know, I want to switch gears because in the last show that we did, the last show that you were on, Mike, we talked about that little house that I had bought and I sold for what I had in it.
Yep.
Okay. And we talked about how I made money, how I made a profit buying and selling a house for what I had into it.
Yep.
I cannot tell you the comments that we've gotten on different social media platforms and stuff that's coming to me like randomly, weirdly, personal messages to me. Like, people don't understand it, and they're like a couple things. Number one, they'll say, scumbag or scam, right? Number two, they'll say, you got to put a spin on it to make something up when it doesn't go your way to still look like you're a success. Like, I was reading these and I'm like, people don't get it. So I wanted to clarify the math here for a second. So this little house, and this was, I think in the last episode, I think it was
2 episodes ago because Henry was here. Mike was gone last episode.
Were you on the discussion when we talked about that? I thought, yeah. So 1 or 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
One or 2 episodes ago. So I bought the house for $22,000. Okay. Let's just walk through the math here for a second. So I bought it from a wholesaler. The wholesaler had it for $17,000. I paid him $22,000. So if you look up the public records, you will see that the public record closing price when I took title was $17,000 because I paid a $5,000 assignment fee on the settlement statement on the HUD, but that's not part of the purchase price that gets recorded in public records. So you'll see $17,000 purchase price. I paid a $5,000 assignment fee, so I paid $22,000 for the house.
Yep.
And when I closed, I brought in my private lender. I estimated that I needed, I think, $12,000 to $15,000 in repairs to be. It was a rental that was occupied to be safe, clean, and functional.
Yep.
But it was occupied, and so the tenant was like, "No, man, I'm good." Like, and there was no safety concern. Like, I wasn't at risk. But the 12 to 15 was going to clean it up. I was going to do some windows and whatever. And so I borrowed $47,000. Okay. The house was worth 80 something.
Yep.
Okay. But if you looked at this house, like it was bought from a landlord that lived, I believe, out of state, could have been local. I don't remember, but they were a landlord that they were just done with it. Like, they knew the house was going to need some work, and they're like, I can't do anything with it. I don't know the seller's scenario story, but they sold it for $17,000 because they looked at the condition of the property and they're like, I don't know. If this guy moves out, I got a house that I own it free and clear. I can at least turn it into 17 grand. So they did.
Right.
17,000. I purchased 22. I borrowed 47. So I put $25,000 in my pocket, some of which I set aside to cover construction, and some of which I put into Hip Pocket National Bank, and I paid no taxes on it because it was borrowed money.
Correct.
So I borrowed 47, and let's say the house was worth 85. So let's just do the math here real quick. 47 divided by 85. So I borrowed 55 cents on the dollar. So was my private lender in a good or bad place?
Fantastic place.
Good place. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a good relationship with this private lender. They had no problem with this deal. They knew the math on the whole thing from the get-go. So I borrowed $47,000. Now, the tenant was paying me $795 a month. Okay.
Yep.
And they did that for 3.5 years. So 36 42 months.
So did you ever have to tap into the fix-up money
Nope,
that you
never
borrowed?
fixed it up.
So it was fine.
Never fixed it up.
Yeah.
So listen to this math. So they were paying me $795.
Yep.
Okay. Tim V, taxes, insurance, maintenance, management, vacancy. Let's just take out 30%.
Yep.
So I had $556.50 left, and then I paid. Let me do the math here real quick. Roughly, I paid about $270 to the private lender.
To the lender. Yep.
Yep. So what did I say? It was $795 times 0.7, $556 minus $270. So I had a net into Hip Pocket National Bank profit on a cash flow basis each month after all expenses of $286.50 times 42 months. I made $12,033 on that house in cash flow.
Yep.
Okay. Here's what people heard. They heard that I sold it for what I had into it, so I must have lost my shorts. I must have lost money. But I never tapped into any of that money from the 47 to the 22. I never had to use any of that to fix up the house, to cover a vacancy, to file an eviction. I never had to do any of that, right?
Right.
And so I take the $12,033 net. I'm not doing funky math here, right? I'm not saying $795 times 42.
Right.
I'm taking my
Incorrect math.
net,
Right.
my net operating
The correct
income.
math. That's correct.
The correct math.
Yep.
Times 42 months, plus the $25,000 I stuck in my pocket up front. I made $37,033 on that house when I sold it for what I had into it.
Right.
That's what people don't get. Oh, minus I sold it in the fall, so I paid roughly 9 months out of the 12 months of taxes for that year. So 37,033 minus about $400.
Right.
You got people hyped over there on the internet.
What
Was
is
it crazy? Like, you saw the comments. Was it crazy?
Totally. Yeah, it was funny. And I think it's like exactly what you said. Just people don't understand like the totality. They're hearing one thing and making assumptions about it and not hearing the totality of the deal. The deal didn't end, at any of those little stopping points. It
Right.
continued and, it still continues,
Yeah.
You made your money and now somebody else is.
But that person that's commenting, somehow the social algorithms are saying, hey, you're interested in real estate investing. And they here's how I made money selling a house for what I have into it, and here's why I made the decision to do it. And their only default is to come in and comment to me about how that's a scumbag move and how
that
that's
bizarre?
stupid and that it doesn't work. And it's crazy.
Here's what's crazy about it, and here's the deal: we can't go into why people do what they do. We'll just spin ourselves. Our heads will explode. But instead of saying, "Wow, that's killer," can you show me how to do it? They just chimed in, it's a scam, because they don't understand it. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's a lack of knowledge and it's a lack of mind. Or it's a shift in mindset that needs to happen.
Right.
I think.
Crazy.
It's a mindset
Hopefully
problem,
they're
right?
listening.
Yeah. Hopefully they're listening.
Right.
So let's do this, guys. I think we're gonna hook.
We're doing the meme challenge.
Oh yeah, that's
This is a new
next.
Okay, perfect.
That's
I love
that. Yeah.
This is a new segment, guys, that we did as a tester. I did as a tester in the conference room, and it was hilarious. So right now we're going to just showcase it a little bit.
Okay.
And then moving forward, the guys on the show are going to be presenting memes every week, real estate themed, and all probably stemming from a good story.
Yeah.
And we're going to be showcasing them and sharing them, and then probably reaching out to the community and saying, hey, send us your memes,
right.
and sharing some of what you guys are finding when you're making those offers and when you're fielding those deals. What kind of funny things are coming up for you. So
That's what I was going to
these are
ask.
good.
Like, are we going to get the community involved in this a little bit? Like your best real estate meme, and then tell the story behind it.
yeah, absolutely.
So-
and we're going to be setting up a number 2 that people can actually call in and tell some story about it as well. text the number with questions and some different things. So,
Yeah.
it's going to be, I think it's going to be a fun way to engage with people and hear some of their fun stories. So
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, we're going to move into the Mogul Memes section right now.
Yep.
What I was going to say
We're
is,
laughing already because we know what's coming.
yeah. Well, you just closed a little deal. Was it Friday?
Yeah.
It closed, funded today or
yeah,
something?
$3,000.
Yeah. So
just a quick
like
little assignment.
Like a nothing burger deal. But I say a nothing burger deal.
Yeah.
Like that's a big deal for like if you've never closed a deal, making $3,000 on a deal is a big deal.
Yeah, and
I've
what did
closed
you-
thousands of deals, so I call it a nothing burger deal.
Yeah, and what did you tell me? You've never met an investor who doesn't like making a profit.
I've never. So one of my mentors years ago, a private lender guy that I met, owned a big business here in town. He always told me, Rob, I've never met an investor that went broke taking a profit.
Yeah, there you go.
And so a $3,000 nothing burger is a profit and it adds to the bottom line. But there was a lesson in that $3,000 that you told me, I think, last Friday as this deal was closing. But I think we're going to save that for another episode.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely talk about it, but it's so in line with systems and scalability and just like keeping the right mindset. So it's all right there. So
Yeah.
let's do it.
There's a
Side
lesson.
note too, most deals like that, when you make $3,000 and you really think about how much time, energy, and effort you had in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are the occasional, holy cow, this deal was a pain in the butt, and I only made $3,000. But for the most part, it's high-end attorney and specialized doctor money when you break it down into hourly.
Right. So how much time do you think on that deal?
I mean, a few hours of coordination to get it, because it was a deal that came back. We had already done some of the upfront and had to renegotiate and do some of that, get the price down to where it was actually right. And he came back to me, the seller did later. So it speaks to follow-up as well.
Right.
And so we kept following up with him. He reached back out. We were able to pick it up at even a further significant discount. And I already had a buyer through JV and with Henry here in the office who was ready to just pick it up. We know he's vetted and he's ready with cash, already set up at our title company. And so it was, we let them just basically handle it. Now, there was one point where we'll talk about it and what my, not necessarily mistake was, but just my awareness and system, part of it fell out and caused some problems. But we got it done.
Yeah, we'll dig into that. All right, over to the Mogul Meme section.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's dive in. All right, what do you got here? When the seller tells you they think the roof is good.
And this definitely happens.
Well, here's the
time.
question:
That's funny.
Is how good are sellers at estimating repair costs?
Not good. So I'm always skeptical.
Right. And the last time they were in the house was 10 years ago and the house looked fine. And
Right.
since then,
Right.
hailstorms come through,
Yeah.
Exactly.
4 or 5 plagues,
Right.
couple fires.
Couple freezes,
Right.
Yeah. Well, and you first ask a seller that question, hey, if we fix the house up to nice retail condition, what do you think it would cost to fix it up and what do you think the fix-up costs are? And they're always going to give you a number. And that number, you can almost always double it.
Yeah.
To be probably closer.
Yep.
Sometimes you gotta more than double it. But there's a follow-up question that I always like to ask, and it's this, and it's Mike. If you're the seller, it's Mike. Is that with you doing all the work yourself, or is that me hiring licensed contractors and pulling permits to do it correctly? And it always reframes the seller into thinking, oh yeah, that was me doing the work myself. So in their mind, it just became a lot more expensive. Okay.
Right.
That's me dropping back into teaching mode. Let's stay into humor mode here. Okay, the next one. When you send out 100 offers, and when the seller starts calling. Okay, so this is the dude. You guys have all seen him. He's sitting in the sterile office. He's got the white hair with the white, just weird beard, and he's got his coffee mug. He's like, yeah, really super nerdy tech guy, right? Which is I guess maybe some of us, super nerdy tech guy. When you send out 100 offers, when the sellers start calling, and then he looks at the camera and he's got a big smile on his
He's
face.
even happier.
Oh,
he was happy with his computer and his
Dude.
coffee, and now and making his 100 offers, and now he's even just more ecstatic.
The explain the meme section for all of you that don't have a visual.
Absolutely.
Here.
You got to catch this. You got to get the video, man. Hit YouTube.
Right. Yeah. But here's the funny thing. Like, we're looking at this and saying, yeah, that's us. Like, that's our point of view. You want to know what most people do? When you send out 100 offers and the sellers start calling, they freeze.
Right.
So what we should have up here is when you send out 100 offers, and then the bottom one should be a big picture of an iceberg. Because
Right.
most people freeze
Big roadblock
at that moment,
iceberg,
which is the whole thing on day 5 of the 100 offer challenge in the automation and technology section, where we really showed people how to scale. We showed people how to turn the one call close, our sales and selling, our acquisition script. We showed people how to plug that in automatically using AI technology online. And so if you missed the challenge, shame on you.
First off.
Right. Shame on you. But I just wanted to point that out, because when you send out 100 offers, most people freeze.
Yep. And this was speaking to the mindset that we wanted to have for the participants to have in that challenge.
100%.
But you're absolutely right.
All right, next one. How could I ever make it in real estate? Yeah, it's
So
definitely too
one.
hard. Take the stick and jam it through the spokes of the bike you're riding. Me overthinking my way out of success. How many times have we seen that?
How many times do we do that?
How many times have we seen that?
Yeah,
Holy
this one's
smokes.
good. Are you going to explain it, Rob? Or do you want me to?
No, you explain it.
So it's 3 vertical pictures. In the top one, there's a guy sitting paused on a bike, and he's thinking to himself, how could I ever make it in real estate? And he's holding a stick. And then in the middle of the picture, he's shoving the stick in his spokes of his front tire, and he's thinking to himself, yeah, it's definitely too hard. And then the third picture, he's crashed off the sidewalk in the grass, and it says, overthinking my way out of success.
How many times?
It's funny, but it's a lot of people are stuck here.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their mind is the stick, and their brain puts the stick in the way, and then they get tripped up, and then they say, hey, self, see, I told you so. This is not for you.
So the process that we teach is, especially in virtual market investing, when you're picking a virtual market to go into, you're picking a location, and what I always try to teach people to do is pick what I call an easy profit city, and then find where the money is being made in that city. So there's a process to get down to that. And this meme reminds me, Mike, of we had a student that we worked with, I don't know, 4 or 6 months ago, and he followed the process perfectly. Came into the program, followed the process, did everything we told him to do, got a seller to accept his offer, had a buyer buy the contract through an assignment, and actually had the deposit at the title company on both sides, the A to B. He had a $5,000 payday inside of 30 days, locked up. He'd never closed a real estate deal before, and he panicked because the seller called him and said, hey, I want to do XYZ. I want a little bit more money. And instead of walking the seller off the ledge and back down to, here's why I made you the offer, here's why this works, here's why this solved your problem when you accepted the purchase agreement, and walking the seller back down to, we solved all of your problems, we helped you.
Yep.
And getting that deal across the finish line, he panicked. He threw a grenade into the middle of his deal, and he blew the whole thing up. And he threw his $5,000 payday away. That's what this meme reminds me of.
Right. And put the stick in the spokes a half block before the finish line.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was insane to me.
The brain's a powerful thing, and it's why this one is so good. It's why we continue to talk about it, and will continue to do so.
Yep.
Because
Totally.
that is the biggest hurdle.
Yeah. This one just needs a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah.
In the
and
background, it's got a house fully inflamed and on fire.
Fire department's trying to put it out.
The look is classic.
And the
Yeah.
seller's telling you, just needs a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even remember. What movie is that from? What is this, like The Exorcist or something?
I don't know, but
That little girl, like, I think in the movie, whatever movie this is, like this is a real movie scene.
Firestarter, maybe
Something like she was like this little
I
girl
haven't
that
seen
had
it.
these superpowers, and like
I didn't
she
recognize
could start
it.
stuff on fire.
I think maybe
Like,
it was
and
Firestarter. Hit us in the comments. Hit us in the comments and let us know what if you know that what this movie is.
Because she's looking at the camera like with these this sinister face.
Right. So good.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. And this was one Henry came up with before he left. So
Speaking of,
so we'll
speaking of Henry, this couch is way more comfortable today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's out fly fishing,
He
right?
totally is fly fishing.
I have no idea. He didn't tell any of us he was going to be gone.
He's out practicing casting. I texted him before he got on here and asked if he's catching anything.
We should throw up onto the screen the dialogue that the three of us have in our text chat when Henry goes fishing alone,
right.
and he always texts us and he shows us a picture of the fish. We never give him like grace or good jobs, like attaboys. It's always, is that the biggest fish you could get? All I see is net.
That's right.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
We have a whole funny string of conversation.
He sent a picture a couple weeks ago, and it's a decent sized net and a tiny little fish. And then the first comment back in our text was, "What is this a picture of? All I see is net."
Yeah.
Amazing.
To the point where he said, "I'm not going to send you guys pictures of the fish I catch anymore."
That's right.
And we're like, "Okay, go catch some real fish."
We'll have to explain. We'll have to get this picture up here next time he's on. Next week I think he'll be back. So
Henry's trophy.
yeah, Henry's
right.
trophy.
That's
exactly.
going to be a good one. We're going to throw Henry's trophy up on.
That's right.
And like we're going to blindside him with it. We're not going to tell him it's coming. We're just going to throw it up and say, "Hey, Henry, what is that?"
And you know what's going to happen 2 weeks after that? There's going to be a bunch of fishing memes.
Hey. Is he going to listen to this?
Probably.
Okay. We'll put the idea together after this.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I just want to say another show. This has been brought to you by FreedomSoft. What we'd like you to do is like this and share it out on your social networks. Like it on and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And with that, that's a wrap. We'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.